move to a small holding. Now this step is really very easy. All it takes is 5 or 6 years of planning, dreaming, researching small holdings on the internet, figuring out your finances, working out what you can afford, spending hours researching what's going to work for you, what animals you want, what you want to grow, trying and failing to sell your house twice, looking at more properties than you'll care to remember before finally finding the perfect one. And this next bit's very important, making sure you buy it to move in October. All will become clear as to why that's important soon. Now, of course, for most people, the reality is that it's perfectly possible to keep chickens in any kind of back garden. But we did actually have a specific restriction on our house that prevented us from keeping poultry and pigs. We did semi-seriously consider goats at one point. I mean, it wouldn't have been breaking the rules. Now for this step, you take a significant proportion of the money that you've saved as your startup funding when you move into your small holding, and you spend it on paraphernalia for chickens. Now what we strongly recommend at this point from experience is to make sure you don't fully research whether you can actually get hold of any hens at that point. It all adds to the sense of fun and jeopardy. And then after you've spent half your startup fund, find out that because of lockdown, you actually can't have any hens unless you can prove that you've got a covered area to keep them safe. Now that should have been okay, because we had, with the other half of our startup funds, bought the polytunnel. So we thought, well, we'll set that up, the hens can have that during lockdown, and by the time the mandatory housing order's lifted, the hens will be ready to go out just in time for the tomatoes to go in. Now I do also want to say, even though we did spend a significant proportion of our startup fund on stuff for chickens, we are really pleased with the quality of stuff we've got. So you'll see all the bits as we go through the video, but we got a hen house from Solway Recycling in Scotland, which is fantastic quality. We're really pleased with it. We got a Grandad feeder direct from the company. Again, really robust, very happy with that. And we got the rest of the equipment, including the water feeder and a significant amount of electric fencing, which, as you know, has since been repurposed as rabbit defences around the veg plot from the brilliant Hugh and Fiona at English Country Life. And if you don't already follow them, then do, because they are the friendliest people, super helpful, and the quality of the stuff they sell is fantastic. So it was worth the money, just maybe not quite at the right time. Now, whilst the idea of putting the chickens in here over winter was great in principle, as anyone who's been watching for a while will know, we then proceeded to procrastinate and take the best part of 6 months to get this built. So any chance of chickens coming in here was effectively ruined by our own procrastination. Now, as it turns out, given that the mandatory housing order actually wasn't lifted here until the 15th of May, it's probably a good thing we procrastinated, because otherwise I wouldn't only have been trying to manage melons and peppers inside that conservatory, but all of these tomatoes and aubergines would also not have been able to come out yet, and I'm just not sure we would have managed. So it all worked out in the end. So the next step is to do what we should have done in the first place and built a purpose-built, covered run for the girls. It's a bit of a windy day, you might be picking up the tarpaulin flapping, but this has been an absolute fantastic purchase. We're really pleased with it. Again, from the fantastic Fiona and Hugh at English Country Life. All paid for with our own money, not sponsored, but really, really pleased with this. Now, our hot tip with this one is to, in a fortnight of glorious weather, make sure you pick the wettest, coldest, windiest weekend to install it. To make sure it's as miserable an experience as it could possibly be. That's what we chose to do. However, despite the miserable weather, what we've created is fantastic for these girls, and they were able to safely come. It has a dual purpose or triple purpose of protecting them from the elements, being here if we need it as a ready-made covered space if there is another mandatory lockdown, which we're expecting there to be pretty much every year now. It also protects them from predators. It's pretty decent chicken wire, and that comes out at the bottom, so they're protected from anything trying to bury in to get them. So all in all, this was a really great purchase, and although we hadn't initially intended for them to have a covered run like this, I think it was the best thing in the end. Hello ladies, I'm coming. Hey, nicely. And the final step, the best step of all, is to bring your ladies home. Now, we worked with Fresh Start for Hens, which is a rescue centre for birds that would otherwise be heading for the end of their days. And we picked up these 6 girls just this week. And as you can see, they are incredibly tame and friendly, and that's because even though they are rescue hens, they have come from a free-ranging farm down in Brighton, which is also doubled up as a campsite. And so they're very used to people. They're not frightened at all, happy to feed out of our hands, and they're not too dishevelled because they've been treated really well. So they are rescues in that they otherwise would have been killed, and that was sheer luck. We didn't get a choice as to which rescues we got, and we could just as easily have had 6 girls from a more intensive farming setup, but we happened to get these girls. So they're all called Hey Hey. Meet the Hey Heys. Hey Hey. Hello. So now we've only had these girls for 3 days, and they've already given us 11 eggs. So they are doing absolutely fantastically well. And they won't always be in this covered area. So we do have plans eventually to extend the area they can roam in outside the run as well as inside. We're just letting them settle and get used to their new surroundings. And when they do need to be locked in, this is a nice big space for them. Come winter, when inevitably we are likely to have another flock down. It's nearly all gone, girls. Here you go. But they will be able to free range more space in time. Hey. So there you go. Hen ownership. Easy peasy.